What's up, everybody? I'm Tanner, the Air of Rage, and this is Space Rage Industries, the Space Rage Industries podcast. Normally, I'm joined by my friend Andrew, otherwise known as the Knight of Spades or Space Christ. You know, some people call him that. I sometimes do, honestly, not gonna lie. And this is going to be the test episode for the usual podcast. The reason this is the test episode is because this is mainly for a English project that I'm working on in my English class. So there's that. I promise we'll get into more interesting stuff in later episodes. We'll be talking about video game news and movie news, you know, rumors and such, our opinions on different things. It'll be way more fun. Andrew and I will most likely be arguing about a lot of things, so it'll be, you know, be interesting, be entertaining, nonetheless. So we'll just focus on this episode for now. We'll talk about later episodes in the future. So today the topic is learning styles. And what I mean by that is just the different ways different people learn new information and process it. And just, it not only applies to school, it applies to a lot of things. It applies, at least to me it does, it applies in a lot of aspects of my life, not only academically, but also personally, just some more personal stuff that I work on, just projects that I have and stuff. So there are three standard, I guess we could say, just three basic learning styles. I'm sure there are others, I'm not familiar with them, but we'll just be covering three of them. I'm really not sure if there are any more than three, but we'll just be covering these three in this episode. So, there are three, like I said, there's three major learning styles. We've got visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now, me personally, I am more of a visual or auditory learner. I tend to learn information better if I can see it and if I can hear it. If there is a visual representation and an auditory representation of the information. Usually, I will take notes or use flashcards or just read things out of a textbook or just, you know, whatever. Just think, as long as I can see it, read it, or, just things like that. I can usually, most of the time, process it fairly well. Auditory is a bit more critical for me, though, because I tend to understand things more if I can hear them. If I hear things, it just tends to click a little easier. It definitely helps with me for a lot of the subjects that I have a harder time understanding, like math and stuff. It's like with math, there's a lot of things I can understand just by seeing it, but most of the time I have to be talked through it, and I have to be told how that works, or how this equals that, or how you can do this by doing this, or whatever. Just, math is hard. I don't like math. Math is not fun. I'd rather be doodling, or making things explode, or writing things. You know, that's just me. I don't know about you guys, but that's just me. But as far as auditory, I like to read a lot, and sometimes I get a little spaced out. I'm kind of an airhead sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. I get that way fairly often. A lot. I'm almost always an airhead, actually. I'm not gonna lie. But it's not always. It's an occasional thing that happens. It's not a frequent thing, I would say, but it does happen. It's not frequent, but it's not infrequent either. It's weird. But, so like, for example, if I'm reading, I will sometimes be thinking about something else. Sometimes it's related to the book. Most of the time it's not. Not gonna lie. It's mostly not related to the book at all. It's usually related to something else that I've been doing, or just something completely else entirely. So, tend to, whenever I have moments like that, I have to go back to where I was in the passage, or whatever it is that I'm reading. Like, it's usually like a sci-fi book or something. So whenever I have to read it aloud, basically, as I have to read it out loud so I can hear it and understand it. It helps me personally. And another thing is that, like, And then another thing where these learning styles help me is when I'm creating things. I am a very creative person. I like to write, I like to draw, I like to read, and I like to write and draw, and yeah, I said all these things already, but you know what I mean. I'll beat you over the head with it a couple of times. Maybe you'll get it. You know, auditory people. You know who I'm talking to. So when I come up with these things, I have to talk to people. I have to write things down. I have to take notes. I have to make outlines. I have to make scripts. I have to make character bios. I have to write down a physical description of a landscape or a location or something. Just things where I can write down and visually see information, or when I can talk to someone and explain the aspects of something. It helps me a lot. I can not only fully understand what I'm creating, but it also helps me remember what I'm creating, and it also helps me come up with more ideas. Especially when I'm talking with a friend about these kind of things. Especially when I'm talking with a friend, because then I get input from them as well, and it helps get the creative juices flowing. It's really helpful. It's a lot of fun too. I definitely recommend it if you're a creative person. Just in general, not to specific learning types, but you know, and it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it. Now the third learning style, not one I heavily identify with or relate to, not really identify with, but relate to. It's called kinesthetic, and basically what that means is for some people, not a lot of people know big words. It's a big word, I'm not gonna lie. I know big words because I am a nerd. I am a nerd who likes big words. I like big words, and I cannot lie. I like my Oxford Dictionary. Anyway, kinesthetic means you are very active. You're a very active learner, and I guess that could also be misconstrued. Another big word for you people. Sorry. Basically, you just have to move to think. You have to be moving around to understand things, and you just have to be moving. You have to be moving around to understand what you're learning and what you're thinking about. So people who are kinesthetic, you'll want to take frequent breaks when you're studying. You want to make projects. You want to color code stuff. You want to, probably play. Here's an idea. If you're studying for a big test or just a quiz coming up, just something, nothing big or major, or maybe it is something big. And probably better not to do this with something major. But if you're studying for like a spelling test at the end of the week, not a big deal, then you could, well, maybe not a spelling test, but a vocabulary test. Set up a dartboard and get out some sticky notes. Write the vocabulary words on the sticky notes and put them on your dartboard, and just throw darts, and whenever you hit a vocabulary word, you have to say the definition of it. Maybe that'll help you kinesthetic people with learning, in this example, vocabulary words. It might help. It might not. I have no idea. I'm just thinking aloud. I'm thinking out loud here. But, there's an idea for you. Try that out. Let me know how it works in the comments below. Like, favorite, subscribe, all that, Not only that, but, move around. Get stuff thinking. Moving around and stuff. I'm repeating myself because I have no idea what I'm going to say now. I'm an auditory learner and I have to keep doing this because I have no idea where I'm going with this. Moving on. For tips for visual and auditory people, since I've already covered kinesthetic accidentally because I was going to do that later. Visual people, take notes, rewrite stuff, take pictures for God's sake. Take pictures, write notes, just make sure you have a visual representation of the information you're trying to process. It helps, believe me. Right? If you're writing an essay for that English class, write an outline, make a web diagram, make a Venn diagram, do something where you can see all of your information in a nice, neat package, and then just move from there. It'll come naturally, I promise. It's really helpful. It's great. It really is. Definitely do that. Moving on to auditory. Auditory people, my auditory bros. Can I get a hell yeah? No? Alright, cool. Alright, yeah, great. Read out loud. Especially, I know a lot of people are like this. I'm not like it. I really get Shakespeare. I really do. A lot of people do not like Shakespeare. Not gonna say reading out loud is going to 100% help you understand it, but it might. Maybe the context will help you. It's just one of those things. It's meant to be heard out loud. Usually it's the vernacular that people can't understand with Shakespeare. Maybe if you read it aloud, it'll help you understand. But that's not a surefire way to understand Shakespeare. You're not going to be able to read Hamlet out loud and then understand every Shakespeare play ever. And trust me, it's not going to work. I don't have personal experience with it, but it won't work. I can promise you that. I can promise you that much. It'll help, though. It'll help you get into that habit. I promise. If you're studying for a test and you've got some friends over, talk about the test. Talk about the questions and answers for the test. Just quiz your friends. Have them quiz you. It helps. It really will. I promise. It's awesome. If you have good, trust me, especially if you have good friends, your friends are gonna make it. Your good friends will make it interesting for you. I promise. You may not like that, depending on your friends. I can't speak for them. I don't know your personal life. I don't even know your name, let alone your story. So just make sure you have auditory representation of the information that you're trying to learn. Like, write lyrics to a song, write lyrics to a poem or slam poem or whatever. Just make sure you can hear it. Make sure you can hear it and understand the information you're trying to process. Especially, but it would really help, this goes for visual people too, if you're writing stuff down and you're going to read it out loud, make sure you write it and read it in a way that you can understand it. Don't just write down the definition of it out of the dictionary and then read that, because that might not help. That's not going to help you every single time, I promise you that much. Definitely what you want to do is write it in your own words. That'll really help you visual people, and once you read it out loud for the auditory people, they'll definitely get it for sure. So, there's that. Kinesthetic people, one last time. Projects are really fun for you guys, I bet. I mean, moving around, you're actually working with physical materials. I get that. That much I do get. It helps. Being able to actually do something is to apply the knowledge you're learning that's definitely something that is very useful. I can get that much of kinesthetic. It really is. That's just one aspect of kinesthetic learning. It's there though. It's there for you. So there's that. I think that about covers it. I think this podcast would be a lot more substantial if I was not working alone at this point. But I can't. I'm not blaming it on anybody. I really am not. It's inopportune timing. Let's just say that. There's a lot of stuff going on. Poor timing on my part, really. Not gonna lie. It's all over the place. Not gonna lie. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here, making sure we got everything. I think that will about cover it. Hopefully, my students, not my students, just students out there listening, hopefully you guys understand this and put this into practice. I promise you it will help. If you recognize your learning style and you put these techniques into practice, I promise you they will help you out a ton. You'll be passing more classes, more passing more tests and stuff. Just, it's gonna be way more help all around. I promise. And I think that'll about wrap it up for our discussion on learning styles. So that, cool. Glad we got that out of the way. Before we completely shut down on this podcast, I'm going to briefly mention again about the rest of the podcast, the rest of this podcast series, I guess. My friend and I are going to be working on at least one more episode of the podcast later this week and this weekend. The episode will be out this weekend for sure. Won't give you any dates specifically because I'm not entirely sure, because this was kind of impromptu. I'm not gonna lie, but we have much more time for planning. It will be done by Sunday at the latest. I promise. We won't go into the week after that. So for the rest of the schedule, the week after that there will be a podcast episode. The following 2 weeks there will not be, because I will not be available for podcasting unless the Space Knight decides to do one on his own. Probably not. He's kind of lazy. I kind of am too. I won't lie. I'm kind of surprised I'm doing this much. So there's that. As far as content for future episodes, nothing specific as of now. That'll be something my friend and I will work on. We will be, as a broad term, we will be talking about upcoming video game news, upcoming movie news, generally much more interesting news than this. I won't lie. This is pretty interesting, I won't lie, but just things that are more relevant to pop culture, I guess. So that'll be that. So that's about that, I guess. Alright, cool. Sweet. Alright then. So, yeah, I guess we're done here. Thanks for listening, guys. Good luck on those tests and with those vocabulary words and all those other things I hypothetically came up with. And thanks for listening, guys. I'm Tanner, the Air of Rage, and this has been the Space Rage Industries podcast. Tune in next time. Thanks for listening, guys. See you later. Rate, comment, and subscribe, please. Later.